On this episode of the show, I have with me Maju Kuruvilla. He is founder and CEO at Spangle, and we're going to be talking about context. Well, in the age of agentic AI is probably king, and we're going to talk to him about why, and we're going to talk about how context travels across different domains, moving from marketing discovery to brand assets, and we're going to talk about the context and the human in the loop and what's going to happen on the website and a few other things in there as well. Maju, thanks for taking the time.
Hey, Amir, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, before we start, can you tell everyone what Spangle does?
Yes, Spangle is created with a vision that the traditional e-commerce websites were largely built for humans and human emotions. It's all oriented around that. And as we are evolving, we are seeing that the discovery and shopping is becoming more agentic. And in that agentic world, the traditional website infrastructure may or may not be the right experience to build for. So Spangle was created with the idea that the future of commerce infrastructure and the entire shopping experience can be redefined. And we are helping with that transition.
Absolutely. I guess this episode we're going to be talking about really context, and every e-commerce website has moved to trying to understand every click, every move, every type of activity a user could have so that they could better serve them. When we're talking about e-commerce and we're talking about buyers and we're talking about context, obviously things, whether you're shopping on a website or you're going to a store, those are two different contexts. They don't seem to cross-pollinate that often for most companies. But with AI, we're supposed to be able to learn more, understand more. When we talk about context in e-commerce, it'd be great to maybe start to understand what that actually means, and maybe what are some of the limitations pre-AI that people were dealing with.
Yeah, that's a great question, Amir. And I think before even we talk about context, if we take a step back and look, what did everyone build before this? And it's all around CRMs, like customer kind of CDP, CRM, knowing the customer, knowing a lot about their intent and all of that. And that has been the last decade or 2 decades we built around that. But what is happening now is more than knowing who a person is, what's more important is knowing what they are interested in and what inspired them, where they are coming from, and how can we continue that journey from that inspiration all the way to the conversion on the other side, whether that's a human or an agent. And the way you can, because both care about the context more than knowing, just identifying the person or knowing who they are. So we believe that is becoming even more of a problem as consumers are traversing across domains. For example, you talked about the marketing experience. Brands are spending so much money to be discovered in all these different marketing platforms. And they are getting really smart at identifying who to show the right ad and what to show them to get their inspiration while they are busy scrolling through all different things. How do you show them something that get their attention for a short period of time? You click on it, and now companies are spending money to bring that traffic to your website. What we are seeing is all that context is lost when the shopper get transitioned to the website. You're taking them to either a home page or a product detail page or something, or pre-curated page that completely ignores what inspired them and then try to restart the journey. And the interesting thing is almost half of the traffic coming to a commerce site today is originating somewhere else like that. And so when you have a large portion of your traffic is originating somewhere else, have context, and if you bring them here and restarting, that seemed like a travesty. And that's today's problem. And this is going to exacerbate when it's not humans, it's agents coming in, because they don't even have the human the capability to now restart the journey and go. If they don't see the context, what they're looking for, they skip and move on to the next thing. And so what we realized is the context is the most important thing that is missing right now. And it's not a tomorrow's problem, it's a today's problem, as we mentioned. and it kind of work across all the different span. So we're trying to like use that context to like recreate the commerce with context being at the center of everything.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned obviously, traffic is coming from other sources to a website. That's traditionally what's been happening. You referred to agents and agentic taking over, and maybe we were going to talk about this a little bit later on, but I am curious when we talk about that, and a lot is made about what's going to happen to UI UX, right? If the human is in the loop, if the human's not in the loop, those could be different. It seems like there's going to be a shift if we're going to believe that agentic will be how we operate. But also I could imagine when it comes to e-commerce, for us to have some type of UX that allows a human still to peer into a moment in time, audit something, that seems to be very different than anything we've been building the last 20, 30 years for the web.
Yeah. I think, there is, in some level, some things are same and people have been trying to solve the same thing. In some level, it could be completely new. And let's kind of think of, because when I think of the future, my view is like there are going to be buyer agents and seller agents. And if you take a futuristic view, we could say, the shopping that we used to do arguably could be delegated. Right. And if you instead of you are going and manually going somewhere and shopping, you need certain things, the visual stuff. You are excited by the banners, the curation, the visual elements, all of that. But if you delegate that, let's say to your own personal agent, and that agent is shopping, the agent doesn't get excited about a beautiful picture or an artwork or even the marketing. What attracts an agent might be very different than what attracts human. That was my original point, is the entire commerce is built around the psychology of humans, even the limitations of the human, right? I mean, the humans, we have limitation on the time, the space, our attention span, all emotional, all these things, how we built everything around for the last 20 years. So when you delegate that to someone else who doesn't have all of that same psychology, and then when they are the ones kind of shopping, it changes. Now, again, I don't think the future is all going to be, agentic. It's just like when e-commerce came, everyone said, okay, physical stores are going to die. Everything is going to be in e-commerce. I mean, the reality is overall, only 15% of the overall commerce is e-commerce. So it's same way when agentic shopping, I mean, that will take over a percentage of commerce. It's not going to be 100%, right? So you cannot just think, oh, I'm just going to serve for this one niche kind of new, irrespective of how much or smart or big we become. Which is why if you take a step back now saying, okay, I want to work across all these different modalities. I want to meet an agent when it comes and kind of respond to what they are looking for. A human when they come and they are looking for, or a chatbot or whatever that is, all the different modalities people are going to come. So now if you kind of think of a buyer agent and a seller agent concept, our view is every brand would need a seller agent. That seller agent should be smart enough to understand who is coming in, not who as a person, but who is it, an agent, it's a human, is it a chatbot, what is it coming in? And then what is the context of why they are coming in? Are they coming in, where they're coming in from, what inspired them, all of that. Now use that to be able to dynamically curate and merchandise to them based on what makes sense for that. So for an agent, it could be creating a schema that is an agent-friendly schema. But again, merchandise based on the context, what they're looking for. If it's a new customer, you can create some discounts. You can create whatever. You can push certain products. Or if it's a human coming in, you curate in a different way. So what we at Spangle were building is that kind of a commerce seller agent infrastructure. And I say it's not just infrastructure, it's also an intelligence layer. And it's all powered by, obviously, AI that can respond to all of this more dynamically. And that future holds to me is that ability to meet the customer across modalities, truly understanding the context, and then responding to them in ways with a dual mandate. On one side, you want to show it what is good for the consumer. On the other side, you want to do what is good for the brand and the retailer. And how can we bring it all together? So there could be UX, there could be agentic schema, it could be just simple UCP or ACP or whatever other kind of calls. It can be a mix of all of it. And you need to like plan for all of it and be ready for all of it.
Do you think, I mean, if we were to look at e-commerce and how humans behave, because you said, we're humans do get distracted by the bright, shiny object. That's part of how we operate. If you were to look at context and let's say, we want the agent to go find us a red sweater. I think as a human, if I'd look at that, I will look for red sweater, but I also might look for, different shades of red. I mean, the context of that red's very different. When we think about an agent and we think about e-commerce to understand the nuances of how we process the visual, I am curious how you kind of see that evolving and improving, because it seems like there is a little bit of a nuance of, what we have in our mind. Even if I were to tell my spouse, go buy me a red sweater, she probably would still get stuck in the different shades. Well, how red? Are you okay with pink? Again, context to me seems to be this overarching component of having someone do something for you.
That is true. I think you're hitting on an important point, because not everyone kind of think of the same thing, because we all have our own background and our views and objectives on all variety of things. And that's why the context become even more important, because it's as simple as some description. It would have been easy to say, oh, it's just red and sweater, and everyone should know what is a red sweater means and whatever. But when you think of context, there are a few things. First and foremost, can we understand what kind of a consumer is it? Is it first and foremost, are they looking for this first time? Have they bought this before? Or whatever information we can get, and also where they are coming from. Because let's say if it's an advertisement or a targeting, you targeted something and that's why they saw it. So you understand your segment, you are going after a certain profile, you are doing some of that. All of that will give information or if it is you're advertising a low price product or a discounted product and they are coming in, now they are like more price sensitive customer. And so, or you are showing like 4 different products, 4 different shades of red, and they picked a particular one. Now that, okay, within that 4 I showed, this is the one they kind of got interested in. That gives me a lot of context. So you can infer, the reality is consumers are always sharing their intent constantly. With every touch, every click, every vision, every swipe, everything. The question is, are we listening, right? Are the brands and retailers really listening and understanding? And that the ability to really listen through all the different aspects is what we call the context. Now, the context by itself is interesting, but that's not enough, right? Okay, you understand all the context. Now what? Now, this is the other side where you have to really take the products you have and extend and enrich it in ways where it can speak all the different versions what people usually describe it with. To your point, if you take a red sweater, if men describe it in some way, women describe some other way, or people in the US describe one way and some other country different way, or certain age gaps, people describe in different ways, or certain fashion, or whatever context, usually people wear this for a Chinese New Year or a wedding, or it's there's so much context on the product itself that you can infer and expand on, because the beauty of today is you can find out all of that. Now, when you think of, now you expanded the context on both sides. On one side, you expand the context on what the consumer is and their intent and here. Then you also expanded the context on the other side with the product so much that you now know not only that this is your product, but your product with this infinite number of explanations that product could be used in different contexts. Now you marry them together to find within the larger context of a vector space, which ones are most where do you find the best matches between these two? And now you need the last element, which is how can you curate a group of that and then present it in the right way, whether it's a user interface, whether it's a, like an agentic response, and also price it, discount it, do whatever you need to like close that deal based on what they're matching. The combination of those three are kind of really the secret sauce. That's how we think about it. And that's our model. We create a model behind the scene. We call it a product GPT, which is a product intelligence model, which has the capability of expanding this context, identifying it together, and curating on the other side to match the consumer and the business. And so the context is not just about the consumer. The context is also about the kind of really expanding about the product, if you would.
Absolutely. When you think about, I guess, e-commerce, I mean, for the most part, it feels like we have a lot of stuff online. There's still brick and mortar. That connection, some companies do it really well. Some companies don't do it well. I think it's really hit or miss in terms of how you've been able to get that data, curate the data, understand the persona. When it comes to AI, and obviously right now we're talking about a lot of e-commerce stuff, how well will some of this translate to a brick and mortar? Are we still talking similar issues? Does AI help us solve some of those?
100%. I don't think you can solve commerce just in one channel. I think that's, even I mentioned before, like commerce is going to happen across all different modalities. And in fact, the companies who have physical stores and experience with customers are going to have an advantage. I think they are going to be the winners if they play it well. And you need to like really bring it all together. And it's going to be not a nice to have. It's probably a critical. Without it, I don't know, these brands are going to be as efficient as they could be and engage with customer in all different modalities. And everything I just said, 100% match in a store. Now think like today you walk to a store, even just think of a grocery store. And look at how the digital coupons and everything is. It's so archaic right now. Like people have physical stickers, you go scan things. You have, people have to go to, and nothing is curated. Now imagine you walk into I'm just simply saying grocery store. You walk in, you scan a QR code there. And let's say based on where that QR code is, and now that is your context, someone saying they like that. Okay, now let me curate some experiences for them real time. And imagine like you are walking around with a device, it could be your phone, and you scan something. Immediately you can kind of create a dynamic, personalized recommendations for them based on, and they start scanning a few more things here and there, and each of them you can be placing it strategically is where to get the intent. But you need to get the intent from the consumer a little bit. And based on a couple of scans, you can figure out, okay, this user is trying to do something along these lines. And now I can start curating better and better experience for them. That's an augmentation of the physical store. So I like, oh, I see you might be trying to make a cake, and maybe is it a birthday? And okay, I understand that. Now I start making, oh, would you like to see some recommendation on making this kind of a cake? I click on it and it immediately lists like, these are the products, here you go. That's when, and given today, if you buy them together, you could have a coupon that just available for your visit right now. So you have this, if you can think of using the context in a much more deliberate way, you can completely transform your experience on physical side, blend it with the online. And the beauty of that is all of that, now you go back home and you go online, guess what? Everything that continues. Like there they know that, oh, it looks like you were looking for these things and you didn't buy some stuff. Now we can like follow up with them. You can continue with them. And I think all this applies 100%. And you can even sell things that are even not in the store. You can, extend those inventory to far more things that you can have in a smaller physical store. As stores become premium locations and you cannot keep all of your inventory, that's might be a beautiful way to like say, hey, if you're interested in these things, look at these 5 other things that you don't have here, but we could easily buy for. And so when I think of the future. That's why I don't perceive on one modality or one way or anything. If you can truly understand the context on both sides, and if you can curate experiences real time based on that, and if you can learn from that, and if your models are learning constantly, if your models are self-optimizing constantly, and you find that, oh, people, you thought these are the things that made interesting to them, but based on these scans and end up what people buying it, they are kind of something different, and you see certain trends that are forming in some localities. And now the model kind of self-optimized. The minute someone scan, then it'll be like, oh, I see where you're doing this. I've seen this before. I can get you. That's the beauty of AI, right? I mean, now you're talking through AI agentic experiences that is always following the context. It's always curating experience. It's self-optimizing. And you can do that at infinite scale across all the different ways. Now you have kind of an experience that probably doesn't exist today.
Yeah, I guess an interesting question for you. I'm actually one of the people that I'm like, you know what? Know more about me. I'm okay with that. I jokingly always say my dream is for enough data to be known about me that some AI system knows I like to have pizza the third Monday of every month. It will already tell me Sunday night, hey, if you want me to have this to your door at 6 p.m., these are your normal pizza toppings. And then I don't do anything else except, yes, it charges me and shows up. I might be an outlier of being okay with information being gathered about me to give me those services. We do hear a lot of resistance from end users about not wanting, and again, people have their own reasons, but they don't want something or someone or an AI to know too much about them. I guess this is a complicated question. It's not a privacy question, because I think that one might be out of scope. But I guess the question is at what point does the end user see enough value in sharing their information that they're like, you know what, this is actually making my life easy? I mean, this goes back to people didn't want to get into an Uber. They would still take a cab until they realized it's maybe sometimes more convenient to even just have the Uber there, and I'm willing to get in somebody's, I'm willing to cross that line. This we're talking about, we want an AI to learn more to understand that context. It almost goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I remember days when people didn't want to buy from Amazon because they worried about their credit cards. And so we have come long ways. And I think, there's always also some people are okay with some data, not other data. Some people are okay with some companies doing it, not other companies. So the reality is it's a complex kind of landscape. It's not like everybody wants this way or the other way. But the beauty of what we do, at least the way I think of it, is we don't need to know the user at all. And that is another framing of a context. Like, I am not, like at Spangle's view, we do not know who you are, and we don't even need to know who you are. What we look for is patterns matching, right? So we are like looking at the general population and saying, okay, we don't know who Amir is. You don't know you like pizzas or whatever. But now that you are starting to come for a pizza, we kind of see like after 2 or 3, either you clicked on an ad coming in, you're starting somewhere. We kind of figured out that, based on what you're looking for and what we have seen, kind of what is working across everywhere, even locally, all the different things, we think we can figure out what you might need and start showing you things that might be super interesting for you. And now we are learning it at infinite scale. So think like, the Google Maps and all the traffic it is like. I mean, it's less about individuals and all of that. They're collecting population data, and then based on that, they can make very good prediction. So it's a privacy-friendly way of doing it, because that's good enough. Because sometimes knowing too much can be a problem. Because we used to say that to Amazon, just because I bought a TV, don't show me another TV when I am there to buy, I don't know, a necklace for my wife for Valentine's Day. Because the fact that I bought a TV is irrelevant. What matters is I am here to buy a necklace for my wife for Valentine's Day. That's the context. That's what matters. The fact that I bought TV before is interesting, not important. What is more interesting is what other people are kind of buying for a Valentine's Day for a necklace, what is kind of popular, and like few clicks here and there, that would be more helpful for me. So when I say context, the tradition, that's why I started by saying companies spend so much money curating data on people. I kind of think that was a waste of time because nobody has enough data to really make anything good. Like even at Amazon, companies struggle to make good data. I don't think any other company have more data probably than Amazon when it comes to this. And so you spend all of your money and time and effort building systems to capture data to only find sparse, irrelevant, backward-looking data, which doesn't really compute to anything, versus let's turn the page. And that, I kind of view like context kind of kills the whole traditional CDP systems, right? Because now we're not focused on trying to find a customer and truly going on deeper, but rather finding what is kind of happening. Can we learn patterns? And AI is beautiful at this. And it has the capability to learn, adapt quickly, learn, self course correct, adjust everything. And now you can zero in on things in a much more privacy friendly way. And I think that's a promise probably more people would be aligned with and more people will be more comfortable with. Whereas, there might be cases where people may be happy giving data and all that stuff, but that's different. We don't want to be in that business.
I love it. That's a great way of putting a solution to the table that actually addresses some of the bigger concerns of people when we're talking about e-commerce. And obviously, it's still early days, and where agentic goes, within this paradigm is there. And I guess maybe the final question for you: you're building this platform. You're understanding. You don't even need to know me particularly because you're understanding the bigger picture of the whole. When you're looking at a solution like this and you're looking at people adopting it, because you referenced the Amazon, I always joke people wouldn't buy a book even. And a book is really the most nondescript, threatening thing you can buy. When you think about agentic and people getting to the point where they're like, you know what, I trust something to go action on my behalf. Because it's one thing a lot of people are using, LLMs, to help them a lot of, clerical stuff, summarizing emails, a lot of the stuff that has, no tangible impact to their wallet. But for adoption, to see somebody go, you know what, I'm going to let the agent go make this decision for me. I guess, are we close? Are we a little bit far away? Do we need just more comfortability? What is that tipping point for people to adopt it?
Here is what I would say is I try not to predict the future. I keep optionalities, right? Like to me, consumers find whatever they find is comfortable for them. And it's probably not going to be A or B, it's A and B all the time, right? So it's always and. There are things like, think of like a subscribe and save. It's nice. It can be agentic. I don't care if like my shaving cream is showing up every month. I don't care if it comes from Amazon, but I would rather have my personal agent go always find the cheapest one and always get me. And if that can do a better job than Amazon does, great. I don't care. I'm happy with it. And also, am I using Amazon agent or am I using my own personal agent? Because maybe future we all have our own agents. We don't need to use a company's agent for it. Because if you ask me, I would say that might be the future. Like we all have our own little agents and we give access to it, and it can do. We put thresholds on it. It's like, okay, you can do basic stuff within this amount. Maybe manage it like a teenager initially with a credit card with some limits and all of that. It goes by whatever. So there could be a variety of things, and these things are going to unfold, and who knows how things are going to happen. But as a builder, as a solution provider, the way I think of it is, it's always and we should keep the optionalities. If future brings more browser agents or personal agents or company agents or whatever, great. If shoppers continue to come, they use chat GPT and search through there and come and buy it, perfect. If people use, some kind of ads and click on it and come there, great. If they come directly to the website, fantastic. If they go to the physical store, it's all great. Then I look at like, okay, what works across, what is required across all these different modalities and what doesn't change? And if there could be even things we are not even talking about right now, could be unfolding in the next few months or years. But what is common across all these different things? At the core, you need to have a deeper intelligence about your own products, what you are selling. Doesn't matter where you are, you just need that. That's our foundational thing is product GPT. It takes your catalog and make the catalog really smart. And then the second thing is context engineering. Like, can you really figure out context through all the different actions? Whether you're searching 3 times, that's good enough. Now I got context. I saw that you're searching, the 3 terms gave me enough context, or 3 clicks or whatever. I got it. And then can I create a storefront for you, either virtually or physically or through agentically to you real time? We focus on those 3 things and like leave the future to all the smart people to say, hey, let's find out whatever consumers need to find out. And then I will be one of the people who will be super happy when I have my own little personal agent does all the things, all the shopping for me, so I don't have to go and do it, because a lot of shopping I do are all repeat stuff. And the thing I kind of personally do are very few and limited. Why not automate a lot of that? But that may not be the good future state for a lot of people. And who cares? Let's keep a lot more options. More options, everyone wins.
Absolutely, definitely. I love that, and I do agree with you that more options, people do win. All right, I think we're gonna have to wrap it there, because obviously you've got to get back to it, and I appreciate your time and insights, and I'm sure people might have some questions, because I'm positive we did not exhaust all the avenues we could have gone down. It would have been a 2-hour episode. What is a good way of getting in touch to ask you maybe a follow-up question?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is a great place. X, I'm a little bit active, but LinkedIn is probably the best way to get in. We are hiring, looking for great people to be part of our solution. So love to talk to people who are thinking about this, want to innovate, wants to be part of shaping some of the future around it. Would love to hear from anyone who is interested. And thank you so much for having me, Amir. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you as well. And that's it for this episode. Be back again, different guest, different topic. Until then, 2 things. 1, I think Maju did a great job of talking to us about what context means in the age of agentic and e-commerce, and talking about transferring that context from e-commerce to brick and mortars, and how that's actually happening, how he sees it, how actually Spangle's solving the problem with the way they're modeling that context as well. Talked about the human in the loop, agentic as well. We covered a lot of ground. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with somebody else that also might benefit from listening to it. Also, like, subscribe, comment, let me know how the show's going for you. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.